This presentation focuses on the levels of management with consideration to the correlation between the role of managers, skills of managers, and the functions of management. Actually, to match this interrelationship between these three variables or three factors: functions of management, levels of management, and managerial skills. Quiz 1. Given the following table, match items of list 2 with list 1 and choose the correct code. So under list 1, sales executive, branch manager, foreman manager, and planning manager. List 2, top management, middle management, lower management, and operating force. Operating force, actually we are talking about lower management. So the column of list 1 include jobs, and the column under list 2 consists of level actually. So we need to match items of list 2 with list 1. Looking from the top, the most relevant job to top management is your sales executive, branch manager, foreman, or planning manager. As you know, the function of plan formulation is a responsibility of top manager. So D is matched with actually with 1 I. Middle manager, again executive. Sales branch manager is mostly like branch manager, so B and 2. Lower manager 3. Of course is more relevant to it similar to foreman, so B3, sorry, B3C, and the last is 4 to sales executive. So the answer E, the correct code is A 4, B 2, C 3, and D 1. That's correct answer. The real significance of levels is that they explain authority relationships in an organization. Considering the hierarchy of authority and responsibility, one can identify three levels of management, namely top management of a company consists of heads of functional department with purchase manager, of top management of a company consists of owners, shareholders, board of trustees or directors, chairman, managing director, or the chief executive, GM, general managers, an executive committee having key officers. Middle management of a company consists of heads of functional departments with purchase manager, production manager, marketing manager, financial controller, etc., and divisional or sectional officers working under these functional heads. Lower level or operative management of a company consists of superintendents, foremen, supervisors, etc. These are main three levels of management: top management, middle management, and lower or operative management. You will focus on the description of the jobs and functions, tasks of each of these levels. Top management. Top management is the ultimate source of authority, and it lays down goals, policies, and plans of the enterprise. It devotes more time on planning and coordinating functions. Thinking, formulation of policies, and determination of plans and objectives. It is accountable to the owners of the business of the overall management. It also described as the policy making group responsible for the overall direction and success of all company activities. The important functions of top management include to establish the objectives or goals of the enterprise, to make policies and to frame plans to attain the objectives laid. To set up an organizational framework to conduct the operations as per plan. To assemble the resources of money, men, materials, machines, and methods to put the plans into action. To exercise effective control of the operations. To provide overall leadership to the enterprise. These are the essential functions of the top management, between brackets, administration or administrators. The source of the formulation of policies, plans, and the determination of the objectives. Middle management. The job of middle management is to implement the policies and plans framed by the top management. It serves as an essential link between the top management and the lower level or operative management. This is very significant. They are responsible to the top management for the functioning of their department. They devote more time on the organization and motivation functions of management. They provide the guidance and the structure of a purposeful enterprise. Without them, the top management's plans and ambitious expectation will not be fruitfully realized. The following are the main functions of middle management. To interpret the policies chalked out by top management, to prepare the organizational set up in their own departments for fulfilling the objectives implied in various business policies, to recruit and select suitable operative and supervisory staff, to assign activities, duties, and responsibilities for timely implementation of the plans, compile all the instructions and issue them to supervisor under their control. To motivate personnel to attain higher productivity and to reward them properly. To cooperate with the other departments for ensuring a smooth functioning of the entire organization. To collect reports and information on performance in their departments. To report to top management and to make suitable recommendations to the top management for the better execution of plan and policies. This is said to be the main functions of middle management. We mentioned before the characteristic of middle management is concerned with doing, with implementing the plans done, the plans formulated by top management. Lower or operative management. It is placed at the bottom, lower, of the hierarchy of management, and actual operations are the responsibility of the level of management. It consists of foreman, supervisors, sales officers, accountants or accounts officers, and so on. They are in direct touch with the rank and file or workers. Their authority and responsibility is limited. They pass on the instructions of the middle management or workers. They interpret and divide the plans of the management into short-range operating plans. They are also involved in the process of decision making. They have to get the work done through the workers. They allot various jobs to the workers, evaluate their performance, and report to the middle level management. They are more concerned with the direction and controlling or functions of management. They devote more time in the supervision of the workers. Top managers devote more time in thinking. Middle managers devote more time in doing. Operative management devotes more time in supervision. So they are concerned with two functions: directing and controlling. They concern with two main functions: directing and controlling. As you remember, the middle management devotes more time on the organization and motivation function, while top management devote more times on planning and directing. So these are the main three levels of management: top management, thinking; middle management, doing; lower management or operative management, supervising. Quiz 2. What of the following is the most democratic type of organization? Line and stock, functional, or committee? Let's state firstly democratic managers guide their business toward success by teaching workers what they know and sharing power. Democratic managers are committed to high level of participation, not only for success in the marketplace, but also make the workplace better, balancing the demands of the market and workers. Desire for participation is not simple. So we need to select the best answer for above question. What stands behind committee which is indicated as perfect answer? The process of organizational democracy involves a process of associating employees' participation and satisfaction in business process, increased innovation, increased stakeholder engagement, and increased ultimately performance. Committee organization is the most democratic type of organization. A committee is a group of persons who consciously form to discuss a problem and provide solution to overcome it. Members of the committee are allowed to participate in the decision-making process. Every member has opportunity for learning from experience and mistakes of others. Line organization is known as a scholar organization or military form of organization. There is no participation and authority is very concentrated. This is the one difference between line organization and a committee or democratic organization. So the correct answer in this case is a committee is considered as a type of democratic organization. This is opposite of linear organization. What are the four main managerial functions and how do they interrelate with each other? As we stated previously, there is no common agreement among scientists in the field of management. About its definition and its function. But for the purpose of this question, we assume that according to the restriction on or the constraint of the question asks about four main managerial functions. Four main managerial functions. So, following these constraints, we assume that the main managerial functions are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Planning is the determination of organizational goals and decision how best to achieve them. Managers think through their goals and action in advance. That their action is based on some methods, plan or logic rather than on a hunch. Two, organizing. While planning provides the framework in terms of organizational goals, organizing refers to the process of arranging and allocating work, authority and resources among an organization member so that they can achieve goals effectively and efficiently. 3 is leading. This entails directing, influencing, and motivating the task, related activities, and effort of organizational members to achieve the goals. Controlling. Controlling is a process to ultimate and evaluate management functions against their effectiveness and efficiency. So, refer to the question. There are 4 main functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Planning. To plan is the first stage in the process of management. Planning is the most fundamental and the most pervasive of all management functions. The key function of management planning. Usually planning is described as the fundamental function of management. If people working in groups have to perform effectively, they should know in advance what is to be done. To plan for future. What is to be done? How to plan for future. So, what is to be done and when it is to be done. What and when is to be done. So, planning is concerned with the following questions, the fundamental questions of planning. What to be done, how to be done, and when to be done. So we can consider them as the fundamental questions of planning. What is to be done, when it is to be done, and how. It's about performance, of course. It is deciding in the present about the future objectives. It is deciding in the present now how to be the future of objective and the causes of action for their achievement. Plan today to get the harvest in the future, to get the result in the future. Accordingly, planning involves the following sub-functions. Determination of long and short range objectives. How to determine in the short and long run the objectives and goals of the organization. The determination of long and short run objectives. Development of strategies and courses of actions to be followed for the achievement of those objectives. So development to formulate the strategies and courses of action to be followed in order to achieve the objectives of organization. Formulation of policies, procedures, and rules for the implementation of strategies and plans. So, the summary of this slide is the description of planning simply is the most fundamental functions of management. The main questions of planning is what is to be done and how to be done and when to be done. It is deciding now, deciding decisions about the future currently. To design for future now. The sub-functions of management of course, planning has a function. It has own sub-functions. Determination of long and short-run objectives. Of course, each company or organization divides its objectives as long-run objectives or short-run objectives according to their strategy, inputs, outcomes, and outputs. To develop the strategies and courses of action. Why company need to develop strategies and courses of action? To achieve the above mentioned objectives. Formulation, this is the main. Formulation of policies. Later on we will know that these functions belong to top managers, administrators. Usually the function of administration is to formulate policies, procedures, and rules for the implementation by who? By managers, by the middle level of management. We know there are 3 levels of managers or management: top level of management, middle level of management, and lower level of management. So the policies, the formulation of policies, procedures, rule, etc., the functions of administrators. As we mentioned in the previous slide, the organizational objectives are formulated by the top managers. The organizational objectives are set by top management, administrators. They do that based on various factors for long range as well as short range. Various factors including economical, managerial, environmental, governmental. So a wide spectrum of factors which affect the achievement of the objectives of the organization. The objectives are divided into approximately 4 or 5 objectives. You are talking about divisional objectives, departmental objectives, sectional and individual objectives. The plans may be in the minds of their managers rather than explicitly. Implicitly, not explicitly, and precisely spelled out. They may be fuzzy, so random, like that, rather than clear, but they are always there. So the plans may be in the form of explicit or implicit ideas. So we need to take out these implicit ideas. Planning is thus the most basic function of management. It is performed in all kinds of organization by all managers at all levels of hierarchy. Each plan should be scientific, measurable, accurate, realistic, and timing. Abbreviationally, each plan must be SMART, where S stands for scientific or specific in some literature. S for scientific or specific, M measurable, A accurate, adequate, R realistic, T timing. This is the description of the best plan. How to describe the best plan? The plan should be specific or scientific, should be measurable, accurate, realistic, and timing. Long run plan, short run plan. So that's why slide summarized or stated that planning is thus the most basic function of management. The most basic function, fundamental function of management. The second function also is very significant and very considerable. Organizing. Organizing involves identification of activities required for the achievement of enterprise objectives and implementation of plans. Grouping of activity in jobs. Assignment of these jobs and activities to departments and individuals. Delegation of responsibility and authority for performance. Provision for vertical and horizontal coordination of activities. Very huge, very wide functions. In the sequence, organizing occupies the second step in the process of management functions. So, organizing involves the following sub-functions. Identification of activities. First, we need to formulate our objectives. And then, as we mentioned before, the formulation objectives is a sub-function of planning. So, the first step is to formulate objectives by top management. The responsibility of the implementation of plans goes to the function of organizing. So, the achievement of objectives depends on organizing function. So, identify the activities required for what? Required for the implementation of plans and achievement of objectives, which is formulated before, a priori. Now, secondly, grouping the activities so as to create self-contained jobs. So, grouping the activities according to the entities of the organization. This for the next function. The function of human resources, staffing, recruitment. No, grouping the activities, financial activities, marketing activities, production activities, etc. So, how many employees is needed for a certain activity? Assignment of job to employees to determine which jobs and who the employees. Delegation of authority so as to enable them to perform their jobs and to command the resources needed to their performance. Establishment of a network of coordinating relationship. So, the main sub-function of organizing is very important. It's about identification of activities required for the achievement of enterprise objectives and implementation of plans. This is the main sub-function of organizing. It is about what? It's about activities. Because the importance of the function of organizing determines the functions of the following functions, like staffing, directing, and controlling. So the design of the function of staffing, for example, depends on the design of the organizing function. To determine the jobs and employees, we need firstly to identify the activities required for the mentioned objectives and plans. Identification of activities, grouping the activities, assignment of jobs, delegation of authority, and establishment of network of coordinating relationship. Now, we mentioned two functions: planning or organizing. The third function is staffing. human resources, recruitment, assignment of employees, staffing is a continuous and vital function of management. It is a biological function of management. Let's see. The gradual importance of designing functions of management. Notice, please remark, planning about formulation of objectives, organizing is about the identification required to implement the above mentioned objectives, including human resources. Staffing as the said function is the vital function of management. So after the objectives have been determined, strategies, policies, programs, procedures and rules formulated for the achievement, activities for the implementation of strategies, policies, programs. So what do we need? We need human resources. Staffing. So staffing is a continuous and vital function of management. So after the objectives have been determined, policies and plans have been formulated, activities have been identified and grouped into jobs. The next logical step in the management process is to procure suitable personnel for manning the jobs. That's why I talked about what? About the logical building of functions of management. Planning, organizing. The next, as mentioned, the next logical step is to find human resources. Suitable personnel for manning the jobs. Why is this question? Right person for the right job. right person for the right job. Here we are talking about the efficiency and effectiveness. Since the efficiency and effectiveness of an organization significantly depends on the quality of its personnel, which in brackets, right person to right job. How to assign the right person to the right job. So, since the efficiency and the effectiveness, later on please distinguish between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency about how optimally allocate your scarce resources. Effectiveness about the output, the relation between planned and actual outputs. So, since the efficiency and effectiveness of an organization significantly depends on the quality of its personnel, and since it is one of the primary functions of management to achieve qualified and trained people to fill various positions, staffing has been recognized as a distinct function of management. Distinct function of management. Very significant function of management. At the previous, as all functions of management, staffing also comprises several sub-functions. It comprises several sub-functions. But here I would like to make a stress on the logical building of the management functions. Please put into account the importance and the efficiency and effectiveness of the function of organizing depends on the effectiveness and efficiency of the function of planning. The effectiveness and the efficiency of the function of staffing respectively depends on the efficiency and the effectiveness of the function of organizing. Here we are talking about the correlated efficiency and effectiveness. The interrelationship between the efficiency and effectiveness of the three mentioned functions. Let us see the several sub-functions of staffing. Also it comprises sub-functions like organizing and planning. Quiz 4. Explain three ways of classifying managers. Managers can be classified by management level as below. First line managers or lower managers, foreman, supervisors, and operations managers. These are responsible for the work of employees only. They are the lowest management level. Being responsible for supervision of non-managerial staff, This is a lower level of management. Middle managers, tactical or control level, using other classification. They are primarily concerned with directing the operations of lower level and with implementing the policies formulated by the top management. Top management, strategic or corporate managers. They are responsible for establishing the organizational goals, strategies, and operating policies. Activities undertaken at this level are those of a long-term nature and mainly guide the organization conduct with the environment. Lower level management, middle level management, and top management. To enrich our understanding about the level of management, let's go to the classification of managers according to scope of activities. Managerial jobs can be divided into functional and general managers, administrators, entrepreneurs, and small business owners and team leaders. Functional and general managers. Functional managers supervise the work of employees engage in specialized activities such as accounting and quality control. Generals are responsible for the work of several different groups performing a variety of functions. Company presidents and division heads are general managers. Key tasks of general managers include shaping the work environment and crafting a strategic vision. So, functional managers are responsible for just one specialty: financial human resources. General managers, they are responsible for the activities such as marketing and production. Confusion. Administrators is the manager who works in a public or non-profit organization, including educational institutes, etc. Entrepreneurs and small business owners are people who begin a new business based on an innovative idea for a product or services, are therefore risk takers and have an adventuresome attitude. A small business owner operates a small business that is not necessarily entrepreneurial, innovative. Last, a team leader coordinates the work of a small group of people while acting as a facilitator and catalyst. Team leaders are found at many organization level and are job holders, such as some CEO jobs more demanding and stressful than others. State and explain three managerial roles as identified by Henry Mansberg. Clearly identify how each is subdivided. Let's just firstly the CV, state the CV for Henry Mansberg. He is a prominent management researcher. Conducted a researcher to find out what are manager duties or responsibility. In 1916, Henry Foyle was first to define the managers. Henry Mansberg wanted to find out that if Henry Foyle 50 years old definition of manager and management definition still stood in the 60s and the 70s. So he conducted a research based on the structured observation method. The term management role refers to specific categories of managerial behavior. He identified 10 roles of a manager played in an organization which falls into three basic categories. So, interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decisional roles. So, this history as we mentioned before about the interpersonal and the other roles. Role performed by managers. For this purpose, there are three roles performed by managers: interpersonal, informational, and decisional roles. 3. Interpersonal, informational, and decisional roles. Interpersonal roles has three sub roles: figurehead, leader, legend. In this role, figurehead, in this role, every manager has to perform some duties of ceremonial nature, such as greeting the touring dignitaries, attending the wedding of an employee, taking important customer to lunch, and so on. It is like a social role. Leader role. As a leader, every manager must motivate and encourage his employees. He must also try to conciliation their individual needs with the goals of organization. Reconciliation their individual needs with the goals of the organization. Vision. In this role, every manager must cultivate contact outside his vertical chain of command to collect information useful for his organization. So, interpersonal role consists of three sub-roles: figurehead, leader, and legion role. So these are the main interpersonal contents: legion, leader, and figurehead. The second role is informational roles. There are three informational roles: monitor, disseminator, and spokesman. Let's see what around these three roles. Monitor. A manager as a monitor has perpetually scan his environment for information, interrogate his legion contacts and his subordinates, and receive unsolicited information, much of it as a result of the network of personal contact he has developed. This is more relevant to figurehead. Disseminator. In this role, the manager passes some of his privileged information directly to his subordinates, who would otherwise have no access to it. This is in case of a leader. Spokesman. In this role, the manager informs and satisfies various groups and people who influence his organization. Thus, he advises shareholders about financial performance, assures consumer groups that the organization is fulfilling its social responsibilities, and satisfies governments that the origination is abiding by the law. The last roles are decisional roles. It has 4 components. 1. Entrepreneur. In this role, the manager constantly looks out for new ideas and seeks to improve his unit by adapting it to changing conditions in the environment. In this role, manager constantly looks out for new ideas to improve his unit by adapting it to changing conditions in the environment. Space disturbance handler. In this role, the manager has to work like a firefighter. He must seek solutions of various unanticipated problems. He must seek solution of various unanticipated, unexpected, unanticipated problems. Strike may loom large, a major customer may go bankrupt, a supplier may range on his contract, and so on. Actually, problem solver. Resource allocator. In this role, the manager must divide work and delegate authority among his subordinates. He must decide who will get what. The last is negotiator. The manager has to spend considerable time in negotiation. The manager has to spend considerable time in negotiation. Thus, the chairman of a company may negotiate with the union leaders and new strike issues. The foreman may negotiate with the workers a grievance problem, and so on. Generally, we can compute 10 roles. 3 for interpersonal, figurehead, leader, legion, and 3 for informational, monitor, disseminator, and spokesman. The decisional roles are entrepreneur, disturbance solver, handler, resource allocator, and negotiator. Last presentation, number 6, is asking to identify 5 basic management skills and explain the major sources of these skills. Do managers at all levels require these skills? In order to effectively and efficiently undertake their management functions, managers need to have certain unique abilities called managerial skills. 5 managerial skills are required for all the level of management. Relatively, of course, according to the position and the level of management. These are technical skill, interpersonal or human skills, conceptual skills, diagnostic skills, and analytical skills. We assume the last 2 skills are additional or sub-skills to above mentioned main skills. Mainly we are talking about technical human skills, and conceptual skills. Analytical skills has a strong relation with conceptual skills. Diagnostic also the common skill between technical and conceptual skill.